So in today's project we are going to be doing a custom serving tray, and it's going to have some resin in it, it's going to have some CNC work done, and probably some handles and stuff. This project's going to be for my uncle's vacation house in Vancouver. This is the same one that we did the large red oak and resin coffee table for, and the matching little dish that goes on it. And a while ago, my mom, who does a lot of quilting, actually made a really cool quilt, and it kind of has a almost like silhouette of their house, which they had a architect come in and design and they had built. And so I kind of wanted to incorporate that into the serving tray. So on one side of it, we're gonna have Vancouver Island and Fanny Bay, which is where their house is on Vancouver Island, and then the other half of it we're gonna have a kind of cutout of their house, much like the one on the quilt my mom did. And then in the space on the bottom we'll probably do a little bit of a resin river. Not 100% sure on the colors at this point, but it'll probably end up being blue. I know a lot of people don't really like blue because it's overdone, but I think it'll kind of mimic the water under the island and the house, so we'll probably go with something like that. So we're going to be using this piece of honey locust that I milled a while ago from a big log that got cut down from the tree. I've gone ahead and planed this so it's fairly flat and parallel. So now we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to just clean up the top part of this and start cutting so we've got some nice 90-degree angles to work on. So we've got our piece of wood all squared up and set up on the CNC router. This is going to be done in 4 different cuts. This piece is a little too long for my CNC, so I'm gonna basically break it down into 2. The first half here, which we're gonna cut first, is gonna be the Vancouver Island and the lettering, and that's gonna be a 1/8 inch bit roughing pass followed by a 1/16 inch detailed pass. So we've got everything loaded. We'll go ahead and get zeroed out and run the program. So one of the very Pacific Northwesty kind of features of their house is this wooden kind of framework over their deck. So I wanted to make sure that that got included into it. So instead of just doing a resin pour over that, I've cut out some little sections of, this is either yellow heart or yellow cedar, I think. And we're just gonna inlay that into what is the framework of that. Alright, so we've got our wood inlaid, so now what I need to do is go ahead and just paint everything that's gonna be in contact with resin with some sanding sealer. This wood is fairly porous, so I do worry about the end grain kind of sucking in any resin or color. So we're just gonna go ahead and kind of paint everything with the sanding sealer, and that'll help prevent that. So our sanding sealer has dried overnight. I've got some of the Alumilite Clear Cast epoxy mixed up, and to that we're going to add just a tiny bit of the Alumilite green dye. So our island is going to be just a straight green with no mica powder, and we'll go ahead and start with that. So for our second pour, we're gonna work on the house. So we're gonna do the windows and sliding doors. This is gonna be a real light blue, so I've got some of the Alumilite blue dye here. And then to that, we're gonna add just a little bit of white mica powder to kind of tone that down. So I did end up adding a little bit of green mica to the island. The color I had was just kind of a little more blue than green, so added some green mica to that just to kind of get it a little more green. So last pour we're gonna do with the clear cast is gonna be the remainder of the house. So we're just mixing up some gray. We're gonna make it just a hair darker with a little bit of a darker gray. So I went ahead and took all the bark off this live edge portion of our serving tray now. And I thought I'd go ahead and try something. I haven't seen this done before, but I haven't really looked, so maybe it has been. But I've drilled some holes about a 1/2 inch deep. That way when our resin goes in, it'll kind of cure in there and act as almost resin dowels. So hopefully if this does have any little bit of twist or anything in the future, that'll kind of keep everything from separating or disbonding from our edge. So we'll get this put into our tuck tape mold and we'll go ahead and mix up some Aluimilite Deep Pour. So it's been 13 or 14 hours since we did our pour last night with the Midnight Blue Black mix. So now we're gonna go ahead and add some of the blue and purple that we mixed up last night as well. And then we'll just swirl this in. I'll go ahead and just hit this with the torch to get rid of any bubbles that are coming up from mixing it. And we'll let that fully cure. Of light passes later, we have everything nice and flush on the front, and went ahead and did the back of the board as well to clean up all the resin that kind of seeped under it. So now we're going to go ahead and just re-square up the edges and take care of this bottom edge here with the track saw, and then we'll be ready to get standed and put our handles on. So you've got our layout lines. We're gonna offset our handles about 3/4 of an inch from the edge. These are 5 inch between center, and our board's overall width is 10.75. So 2 7/8 on each side, and then we've got our marks here. So we'll go ahead and get these drilled up, and then we'll get the back countersunk for the screws. Alright, so we've got this sanded down to 1000 grit and wiped everything down with alcohol. Now we're going to go ahead and put some Myland's sanding sealer on.